Did you see my the stats screenshots that I took yesterday?
For the Red Hat one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How freaking insane is that?
What?
How freaking insane is that?
It's pretty awesome.
It's crazy. What's crazy is it just like kept chugging along just like normal. Like everything started under 100 seconds.
Good.
There is an issue. I raised it with Sean a couple weeks ago, actually, right? Like almost right after we merged his work. There's an issue that crops up sometimes in the lesson, but it's not every time. So like sometimes you load the lesson and it's fine. Sometimes you load the lesson and then you run into this issue where you run a playbook and it just doesn't work. And it's something to do with like SSH or something like that. I haven't dug into it. And I don't know how often it comes up. I've tested a few times. It seems something close to like 40%, but that might just be a sample size problem.
Hmm.
That's another thing. One of the things that I've wanted to do for a long time is add better tooling to Syringe, so I understand things like this better in terms of like their broader impact. So I don't have to like test lessons myself to figure out who's running into what issues. But it is what it is. Anyway. I heard a noise. It kind of sounded like somebody joined, but I don't see anybody else.
All right. So what do we have on the agenda today?
Yeah, I'm getting on to my primary computer, but to be honest,
We've got a bunch of stuff out and we can rest.
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't put a ton of thought into the stuff immediately this week. Like I've got like next steps, but it's all pretty big, pretty major stuff. So let's see. Last week we did the relaunch progress report. Obviously, that's not relevant anymore. We did the curriculum and platform release overviews. That's also not relevant anymore. Let me tell you what. This is what I'll do. Let me join from my computer, and then I'll cover the rest of the relaunch plan because there are some things that haven't been done yet. All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
Excellent. So 7, and then share. So we have a phase 6 for the relaunch. Let me just recap what the go live stuff, just so everybody's clear on where things are at now. The docs are moved. This is basically the thing I worked on last week because it was the one thing I hadn't quite finished yet prior to my trip out to Sunnyvale. But I did finish the transition to the new docs. So if you look at that,
Yay.
they're actually pretty dope. They're cleaned up. They're not in the state that I would like them to be because they still have a lot of references to things that I'm hoping to sort of deprecate this year, but in terms of current state, they are finished. Mm-hmm. But I do think the order is nice. I mean, it's that there's still parts of the documentation that you have to read like a reference. And Sean from Red Hat, one of his one of the things he pointed out was that it was difficult to follow the old documentation because he wanted to read it like sort of top to bottom, starting from the beginning and going and following a series of steps. It's not really how I usually write documentation. I usually write documentation in its entirety like a reference. So instead, what I did was I started with the first steps here in terms of contributing to the curriculum, and this
Mhm.
whole section walks you through step by step how to do that. And then the rest of it is meant to be still viewed sort of like a reference. Like these are sort of standalone documents that cover very specific topics, like FAQs, things like that.
Mhm.
And then the antidote section is almost entirely a reference, but it's covered by three sections. You've got architecture, you've got the object reference, which is important when you're building lessons because
Yeah.
it contains things like lessons and collections and how to write those things. So that there's no way to make that chronological. That just has to be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then sort of development. How do I get started? If I really want to work on like the code of the platform, I didn't want to like devalue that, but that of the things that I want to have well documented, that's like lowest on the list. So sort of putting it on the bottom there seems appropriate. As we mentioned in all the blog posts, the new documentation is absolutely optimized for curriculum contributors, as is almost every activity we're doing. So that's why this is structured the way it is.
Yes. Very nice.
Let's see what else. Obviously, all the redirects are in place. This was one thing I thought of doing. So in Cloudflare, that's where we're doing our redirects. You have the ability to really preserve like URLs. So for instance, I actually recently migrated my blog as well, and I did the same thing. Where what you do is you say, hey, I want to redirect from the old domain to the new domain. But more than that, what I want to do is if somebody visits the old domain at a specific page, which is pretty common, right? They'll counter like a link to a blog post somewhere,
Mhm.
and they'll click on it. What I don't want to have happen is have them get forwarded along to just the domain and lose the specific page that they were trying to access.
Right.
So what's common is you add a wildcard into that rule, and then you do some. It's kind of like they took inspiration from regular expressions. You basically say like anything that happened after the domain, pop that onto the new domain, and ideally, if you've done your migration right, it'll exist, the thing that you're trying to go to. I was going to do that, but I ran into some issues, and the main problem is that I no longer know if they want to go to the actual NRE Labs site or if they want to go interact with lessons. And the reason for that is because previously we had them on two separate domains. And so I had to make a call that basically said, hey, like if they're trying to access, say, a blog post, then that might work. But what if I direct them to nrelabs.io and they were trying to go to like a specific lesson? In that case, I would need to know how to direct them to go.nrelabs.io, which is a subtle, sort of difference, but that's actually where the lessons run if you go through the main NRE Labs site. Anyway, all of that said, I decided to not do the whole wildcard thing, and in so doing, prevent them from seeing big 404 errors. Like they would have seen if in the case that I just described. I decided it was worth it just to say, look, I'm sorry that you were trying to access a specific lesson. Here is you're getting instead directed to the main site. And I think that that's the right call because I don't think there's a lot of links to specific lessons out there. Just looking at Google Analytics,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like there are a lot of people that are actually doing that. So I figured I went with the audience that was going to be.
Yeah.
So what that means is if you go to any of these properties, labs.networkreliability.engineering or networkreliability.engineering, and you're going to any subpath, you're just going to get redirected to nrelabs.io, the front page. And that was instead of trying to figure out who's going to what and then risking a large portion of people getting a 404.
Okay.
But the redirects are in place. They work. They're nice. The redirect, of course, for the forum has been in place for like 2 or 3 weeks, as we discussed in a previous stand-up. There's no more testing that needs to be done because the freaking world did 1 billion tests yesterday. So that's fine. I know exactly what I wanted to talk about. I had an idea yesterday, and I will bring it up as soon as I'm done with this. All the videos are public. The first Labs and Latte video will get published today. So that's going to get us sort of our second hit of the week. And then, of course, the next tomorrow will be the Briefings and Brief video or podcast that we recorded with Packet Pusher. So we'll get a few hits every day, actually.
Awesome. Awesome.
All the blogs and tweets are published. So I posted to Packet Pushers, did all the social, and then after that was there, I published the one on the NRE Labs IO site, which is. Oh, I don't know if you noticed on the docs, by the way, you can add links up here. So it doesn't use the same. It doesn't use the same theme as everything else. I don't know. I don't know that you can, but I'm going to look into that. It's one of the things I wanted to look into after launch to see if we can somehow use the themes that Batovi put together for us.
Mm-hmm.
But that might be some work, so we'll see.
Why is that?
I just haven't looked in. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's involved with that. I don't even know if this Gitbook platform allows you to do that. So blogs, yeah. So publish this blog. That's published, and then the one on Juniper's blog is also published.
Yeah.
I still have write access to that, which is nice.
Yeah. I think that it would, not that we want to bite the hand that feeds us, but I would like to ping Sean about correcting their headline.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That I think we could probably do that. This was a note I had. Whatever. This is fine. It was just dealing with some weird image related stuff. And then the pinned tweet for the NRE Labs account it showed the old video, so I wanted to replace that with the new video, so that got done. So basically, all of the old is out, like gone, or at least deprecated, which is nice. So yeah, the idea that I wanted to run by this meeting is I would like to do, I don't know, I think the question that I'm actually asking, I think the idea is good. I just don't know about the cadence and the frequency, but I'd like to do some sort of a user survey. We in the near future, one of the features that we want to add to the site is sort of like inline feedback, kind of like a Meraki type of portal where they, I don't know if they still do this. I haven't looked at Meraki in ages, but early on, one of their first selling points was that they had this little box in the corner that says, like, I wish this page did X, and you could just like type in there and hit enter, right, and it would get submitted to a portal or whatever. Obviously, I want to do that, but in the meantime, one of the things that would be easier to do is just to put together our own little survey, and have things like, you know, what is your favorite lesson? What is your least favorite lesson? What do you wish NRE Labs was able to do? What kind of, you know what I mean? Things like that. Mm-hmm. Just get a pulse of things. I'd like to do it quarterly. Is that too frequently?
It depends on how we do it.
Yeah.
I think half yearly might make more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, it honestly, it takes time to put together a survey. It takes time to field the survey, because you want to you need to advertise that it's going to be out there and kind of push people over at least a couple weeks to fill it out.
Yeah.
In order to get some meaningful number of responses, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I think it's a good idea. I think no more than half yearly.
Okay. Well, in that case, this is probably good timing then, because I wouldn't want to do it at the beginning of the year and then the middle of the year, because then, we'd have to deal with people like, getting back from holidays. Aiming for like March is probably a good time frame, and then September or October, whatever the other month ends up being.
Yeah.
That way we don't have to deal with holidays ever.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's something I can easily work. That's easy work. I can put that together like this week. And then we'll figure out when we want to send it out. I got to do something while I'm staring at graphs.
Yeah, no. They just so you know, the polls are actually not quite as easy as one would naturally think.
No, I understand. I remember the complexity of like the Sonar report. I'm more just talking about writing down some draft questions.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That part I can knock out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so yeah, this is a kind of a funny stand-up because like we're literally in the middle of the relaunch, so we're just like holding the course. There's still social stuff to do. I'll be doing that today, by the way, I disabled all of our existing like recurring social stuff because A, it had all of the old links in it, and B, I kind of want to revisit it post launch, and I didn't want that interfering with this week.
Yeah.
Because we actually send out a lot of scheduled tweets, and I think we might want to revisit that because that grew very organically over the last year. So I think it's
Oh.
worth revisiting. And so in the meantime, I'm just doing everything manually.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And I think, especially as we move more towards a regular cadence with curriculum. I mean, I think YAML and the Red Hat one, we should probably just put those in as scheduled tweets, maybe like once every other week or once every week or something like that.
Oh, like try this lesson to like
Try
link
this lesson,
directly.
yeah. And there are probably a few other ones that are, sort of the fundamentals ones that we should put in the rotation as well.
Yeah, it's a good idea. The Labs and Latte series is on the introduction to Git, and there are two chapters out now. And the first, I'm trying to remember I'm going to show something on my screen that's very, very beta, so I'm not committing to any of this. But I kind of am committing to some of it because the first few releases I think are good, but this is it's like a very draft curriculum roadmap I'm putting together. So when I say that I started this release, this is where we're at now. When I say I started these lessons with the intent of adding to them, I really mean that. So like Introduction to Git has 2 stages today. I'm going to be adding stage 3, stage 4, and stage 5, and that gets us into April, just for that lesson alone.
Mm-hmm.
And each of these will have blog posts and a Labs and Latte video. And this is a very fundamental lesson. This is one of those lessons that covers something that everybody hears about that they need to do. I mean, Packet Pushers just came out with like I think 2 or 3 podcasts about like infrastructure as code or related things, and they're all dropping the G bomb like every 10 minutes. So so investing in some of the fundamentals lesson, kind of like what you just said, is important to me.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So this is. I mean, it's kind of it. There's obviously still plenty to do, but we're in the middle of it, so it's kind of difficult to do like a total recap. Next stand up, what I'll do is I'll add to the agenda that we will be discussing like what this week looked like, what kind of things, like a summary, a recap of the week, what went out, what how we did, what kind of stats we've got. By that time we'll have some of that data in a week, a full sample size, so I think that'll be good.
Yep.
But in the meantime, we'll stay the course.
All right, sounds good.
All righty, have a good one.
You too. Bye.